How's it going? Awesome. All right, I know it's hump day, but we can make it through it, right? I'm not a very good technical person. This is. Hold on, give me 2 seconds here. Do not videotape this part, Katie.
It's all right. We'll edit it out.
I'm an excellent editor. Let me expand this really quick. So, how's everybody's weeks going? Give me a highlight. Go. Typically, I don't know what that means. Very good. It is cold recently, but we pretty much didn't get a fall. I kind of noticed.
I don't know, maybe 2 weeks.
Oh, you're new to
Yeah,
America?
2 weeks. Yes.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So, what do you know about the Red Cross?
Not very much, actually. I've worked in aid in the past for a few agencies. Not specifically the Red Cross, but in terms of disaster relief and aid work, supposedly sort of exposed to that area. So yeah, it's good to sort of get back into that.
Absolutely. It's oh, I can hear myself now. Thanks, Katie.
I'd like to go back to it at some point.
So you're interested in volunteering?
Yes, not in the immediate future, but definitely on the highlight.
Well, on that topic, there's actually a table in the back for everybody that has all the material about how to be disaster prepared. We've got a really cool tip sheet on how to be Red Cross ready. How many people in here have a disaster kit in their home? Yes, we got a lovely friend from AZEIN, the Emergency Informations Network, who's stealthily just kind of chilling in the background. But a disaster preparedness kit is really important to have in your home to be able to grab and go if something were to happen. Pretty much like home fires here in Arizona are the most prevalent disasters that we have. We respond to one every 16 hours. And I'll get to that, but I just want kind of an introduction. And there's actually a disaster kit on the table that you can see. So without any further ado, I'm going to talk today about disaster preparedness, how we help here in Arizona, and kind of on the bigger scale too. Here in Arizona, we're one of 600 chapters of the American Red Cross, but nationwide we're in over 126 different countries, so, well, globally. So thinking about that, we're only one part of the puzzle, but here in Arizona, locally, there's things that you can do to be part of the bigger movement of being prepared, helping yourself and helping others when disaster strikes, such as a home fire. It's the last thing you think about, when you're going to bed, but it's the first thing that's going to pop in your mind when suddenly you have to evacuate your home. God forbid that ever happens, but if it does, you want to have that peace of mind. So jumping right into it, that's me. So who am I? I'm Nicole Underwood. I've been with the Red Cross for about 1 year and 3 months. Absolutely love it. I definitely am a humanitarian at heart, but I didn't know how to live that out until I got connected with the Red Cross. That's Disaster Dog. He's pretty cool. That is our volunteer recognition event. Some people that I've had the pleasure of working with, some board members, directors, a fellow community outreach coordinator, which is my role there. And I've also been involved in social media. Helped to revamp their blog. We're going to be re-engaging the community with the new blog, as well as our Twitter and Facebook, which if you guys don't already know, it's Red Cross GCC. Would love to get your feedback and input and engagement on there. And then some other things. I came from a nonprofit leadership program through the ASU Lodestar Center for Philanthropy and Innovation. Is anybody familiar with that? By any chance? It's in Tempe, and it's a really, really great program to be able to connect with nonprofit leadership. So we're a network of about 40 different people every year. This is Rose Mapendo from Mapendo New Horizons. She's also a humanitarian, and she kind of spearheaded the Moving the Elephant, which is a concept of getting more engaged in your community, especially with human trafficking and some issues that she dealt with. Definitely somebody to check out. But I got connected with her through my program. And then some people know me from recently I gave up my car and scored a really cool bike. That is the new New Belgium commuter bike. Does anybody bike a lot? Yes, I've got people in the back. Sweet. Biking is amazing, but that's not my platform today. But if you want to talk to me about that, I'll be here for questions. And Eve is in the back if you want to meet her. That's my bike. Okay. All right, so moving right along, why I'm here today, about the Red Cross. I'm going to show you a really quick video. I'm definitely visual, as I know most of you are in here as well, you know, creative types, and I feel that videos kind of speak the clearest message. So without any further ado, this is what the Red Cross is about. And hot corners. Do we have sound? Thank you.
A child in Uganda gets his first immunization for measles, and it could save his life. The people of this village now have clean water. In Indonesia, a family finally has a place to call home. Across the globe, the American Red Cross is reaching out far and wide, helping to prevent and relieve the most desperate cases of human suffering. The American Red Cross is part of the largest humanitarian movement in the world. A movement comprised of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and individual national Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, such as the American Red Cross.
The purpose of the American Red Cross International Services is very straightforward. It is to prevent, prepare for, and respond to disasters and complex humanitarian emergencies, including life-threatening health conditions around the world.
The American Red Cross and its partners in the movement demonstrate the power of humanity, drawing on the strengths of local volunteers and galvanizing the public in support of its life-saving mission. Our name and symbol are recognized and trusted throughout the world. Help is given wherever people are in need, regardless of the distance or the difficulty in reaching them. Disaster preparedness and response, as well as the prevention of diseases on a mass scale, are our main focus, providing relief and assistance to millions of people around the world. We help people with emergency food, water, shelter, and supplies. We work to provide long-lasting solutions to problems, teach people how to become more self-sufficient. In places where diseases take the greatest toll on human life, the American Red Cross is helping through community-based, high-impact interventions that target large numbers of people. One of the most effective public health campaigns of our time, the Measles Initiative, has reduced measles deaths in Africa by more than 75% and around the world by over 60%. We also help families by teaching proper health and hygiene practices and giving them information that can improve the quality of their lives. The American Red Cross also helps find the missing. From the chaos and confusion of armed conflict and natural disasters, families may be separated, sometimes by continents. But through Red Cross International Family Tracing, we help people locate and communicate or learn each other's fate. People working together throughout the world. This is what the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement is all about. And through the generosity and compassion of the American people, the American Red Cross is reaching out across the globe, traveling the last mile, bringing healing and hope to people's lives.
Yay. So that's pretty much what the Red Cross does on a really big scale. And you know, we don't have as many movements here, you know, we're not as prevalent to measles and things like that like they are in Africa, but we're part of a bigger movement. And so that's kind of how I want to get this conversation going. Oops, sorry guys. There we go. So next slide. So it breaks down from the International Committee of the Red Cross, which governs the federation that goes over all the different countries, and the American Red Cross. So it kind of splits into two. On the top, that's where, with the committee, that's where they kind of get more involved with war efforts, which we are neutral, but that's where there's a lot of humanitarian issues on a global scale, and we are able to assist those in need on a bigger scale. But here in the American Red Cross, we help more with natural disasters. And it missed a slide, but it was founded by Henry Dunant, if anybody's familiar with him. He was on a battlefield in France, and he saw people that were pretty much dying. It was a really big war that was happening over there in the 1800s, and he wanted to have a way to help. And so that's kind of how the Federation came to be and went into the American Red Cross. With the Federation, we are the largest humanitarian organization in the world. Over 186 Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies. And that's what this symbol is right here. If you've ever seen this symbol before, when the Red Cross was founded, the crescent actually provides that symbol of hope in other countries that don't really relate to the cross symbol, which we aren't obviously a religious organization, but other countries, it just doesn't give them that sense that somebody's going to help them. So we created the crescent movement in Muslim countries, and that's what we wear when we go and provide services in those different areas. We are comprised of more than 13 million volunteers around the world, pretty impressive, and we are pretty much in every single community that you can think of. If there is a country that's in need, or a city that's in need in a country that it's hard to get to, we partner with other Red Cross areas to make sure that those people's needs are met. And these are some principles that I just wanted to introduce you to. This is how we have our mission, our movement, how we are able to do what we do. And it's comprised of 7 fundamental principles: humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, volunteer service, community, and universality. So when there's an instance that people are in need, especially on the war front, and how are we able to help? Because we are neutral and impartial, we will help anybody that is in need. And with that mentality, we are able to span across the globe. So what do we do here in the United States? Again, told you I love videos, so this is a really quick little snippet, but it'll kind of bring to light how we are able to incorporate all the services that we do. Text 90999, raise your hands. When there's a big disaster that strikes, that's something that we promote, especially like when Haiti happened. I think it's when the first campaign was there, and then pretty much any other big disasters, say Japan, I believe we also did that as well, a quick way for people to get connected. We were founded by Clara Barton, lovely Clara. 5 years after the Federation was founded by Henry Dunant, she was really moved to see what that was about. And when she saw the work that he was doing, she brought it here to the States. And it was founded in 1869. Don't quote me on that. I thought I had it on the slide, but it was almost 150 years ago. That is national headquarters in DC, and the Red Cross, like I said, is over 600 chapters, 36 blood services, which runs through the Red Cross, but it's a separate entity because of the regulations with blood. And we're all across the world, all across the U.S. rather. 67,000 disasters we respond to every year. I know it's hard to grasp that, but that's incredible. And for a nonprofit organization to be able to respond to those many disasters on volunteer basis, it really speaks to the community, I feel. And 12,000 people are trained annually to respond to disasters. So going into that, before I kind of go over what we do, are you familiar with our services? So what is your name? Alan? I saw the tag, yay! So when you hear Red Cross, what do you think? Or do you know anything about Red Cross?
I always think of, I generally think of more local disasters.
Local disasters.
Flooding, fires, things like that, people need some extra help, food, shelter, whatever, for some kind of local.
Absolutely. Some people don't even know that we respond to disasters. Some only think of flood. When you hear Red Cross, does anything resonate? Yes.
Oh, yes, emergencies and like floods. And I don't think of flood actually. I think about more like hurricanes and
Very good. We do a bunch of different things besides just disaster response, which kind of leads into this slide. We provide, obviously, services that help the needy. I'm not sure if you are familiar, but we actually do have a really great relationship with the military. That's part also of how we were founded with Clara Barton. When she was involved with wars back in the Civil War, we have communications with military members to be able to get them home if there's an emergency with their family. And how that works is, say there's a service member that's overseas, they can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, my father is dying, I need to go home. They have to actually go through their chain of command, who then connects with the Red Cross. We verify that that's valid, get all the records that are needed to show that, and then we're able to get them home within 24 hours. And some people don't know that, so it's pretty remarkable, the turnaround that we're able to do. We also do blood drives, collection, processing, and distribution. And then we also have programs, obviously with preparedness, health and safety, CPR, first aid training, and international relief that you just saw. And it gets closer. So how we help here in Arizona. In Arizona, the Grand Canyon chapter, which if you've never been, it's on I-17 in Bethany Home, kind of like the north end of Phoenix. We respond to more than 600 disasters every year here in Arizona. And a lot of people think, well, what does that mean? We don't have disasters here. It gets hot, you drink water, and you stay inside. That's all that happens, right? But obviously, are you familiar with the wildfire that just happened? If you were living under a rock, then maybe not. But otherwise, a lot of people know that was the largest Arizona wildfire in our history. Disasters do entail home fires, wildfires. We do get flooding here because the soil doesn't grab the water readily when there's a lot of rain and monsoons that occur. And so when there are people that are distressed, we will help them. And how that works, especially with a local response, is we are deployed by the fire department. We just don't get up and go. We actually have to be asked because we are an organization. And once we're there, we will help people with basic needs such as food, shelter, clothing, hygiene items to make sure that they're up and off their feet within about 72 hours, and then we'll partner with other agencies for long-term provision. Yes, Katie?
What qualifies the fire department calling you? At what point does it have to be that bad?
if somebody's home is completely destroyed or they have no access to their basic essentials. And I would say that there's probably even more people than we can help right now, and so we partner with other fire departments that might not know of our services, but for the most part, they are privy to what we do. And when we get there, oftentimes a person's home is completely devastated. All they have is the clothes on their backs. It's a definite reality that happens daily. We respond to one every 16 hours here in Arizona and one every 8 minutes nationally. And so when that occurs, we have things that we can partner and we can provide them, and we can even set them up in a hotel if need be, unless they have, another place to stay. And so here's some pictures from the wildfire. I was able to visit this shelter as a public information officer, talking with media, and these are just some of the things that we were able to do. The Salvation Army was there, providing food for the people that were displaced out of their homes. Luckily, as far as I know, no homes were actually burned, but it was over 600,000 acres that are now completely gone. But obviously a number of people were evacuated from their homes and they had no place to go. So they went to a Red Cross shelter. We also went to campsites and were able to give some donated items that were at the shelter to people that couldn't get to the shelter, who had animals, things like that. So how we help, like I said, fire, floods, hurricanes. We actually had a hurricane here last year. Did anybody remember that? It was crazy. There was like hail coming down, and actually it wasn't a hurricane, it was a tornado. So if you guys were looking at me with question looks, I just caught myself there. You can't hold that to me later. But it was nuts. We have a bunch of different things that we respond to. And these are, that was the Belmont fire a few years ago. And again, I don't know if you can see, but her roof is completely gone. Like everything was gone. And so we would literally go up and down the streets in an emergency response vehicle and give people water and basic items that they didn't have anymore. We also, on top of responding to disasters, we prepare people for disasters. And that's a big part of what we do, because if you aren't prepared, then we're not really helping you. We're only helping you for the immediate need. But what happens when that disaster is gone? How are you able to help yourself? So we have a number of different checklists, from anything that you can imagine, even from flu and influenza to dealing with the heat, to we had a checklist on how to be prepared for Halloween. But it was important because there's a lot of dangers that happen on the streets there as well. And if you do have an iPhone, we have a wonderful application that you can download that is free, that will show you where shelters are located in the United States. So if, God forbid, something were to happen, you would know where to go. This is something that I wanted to show you. This is an example of our emergency response vehicle, and this is pretty much what goes into it. We have first aid, blankets, personal hygiene items, water, food, and cleanup kits. And so what we'll do on a large-scale disaster, say like Hurricane Irene that just happened, we actually had about 15 volunteers here in Arizona that were deployed to help out with that emergency. We will have these items ready for people, and we'll go literally to the scene, since it might be difficult for cars to get to, and we'll just grab those items and hand it out to people, and that's all on the donated dollar. So again, how we help: volunteers, donations, community partnerships, preparedness tips, and of course you guys. You are a big part of what we do. If we didn't have the support of the community, we wouldn't be able to survive. And since we've been around for 150 years, it seems like we are definitely needed in the community, but it definitely takes that education curve to be able to provide that information to the community. So how can you help? Well, I wanted to plug this into the presentation. We have 2 campaigns going on right now, aside from the basic volunteer, things that you can do. We have a Red Cross Hope Store. Did anybody visit the Hope Store last year? I did, so I'll give it a hand. This is in Desert Ridge Marketplace, and it's this fascinating concept that I believe started in Portugal, and a few states did it, but we were the best. And it was a concept of a retail store that you can purchase hope. And how that happens is the services that we provide, health and safety, first aid, international services, all the military support. You could go in and donate however many dollars that you would like to donate on the behalf of a loved one. And you could go in and then you would get a receipt, and there was a few retail items, but the whole concept is hope isn't tangible, it's something that you give and that you provide. And so we actually had a physical store at Desert Ridge Marketplace. This year it's going to be at the Arizona Center in downtown Phoenix. I think that's on 5th Street and Van Buren, if I'm not mistaken. And so definitely come out and visit us. Even if you don't donate, just to have that presence. We're going to have a lot more local feel with local artists and musicians down there this year. And that's going to be opening on Cyber Monday. Yay. And then we also have our holiday meal for heroes. Another wonderful campaign. I believe it's 4 years in going. And I actually have some cards on the back table that I'll leave here for you guys. And you can write a generic holiday card to a service member, and we will mail it out with our partnership with Pitney Bowes to service members overseas or veterans here at home. And it really does make a difference for them to get that token of appreciation. So that's some things that you can do. But the key points is learn about preparedness. Learn about how you can provide those types of really important essentials to yourself, to your family, and to your loved ones. Because if you don't prepare yourself and you don't help yourself, then you're not helping anybody. Getting trained in CPR and first aid is another valuable tool. I heard a story of a lady who got CPR training, and the very next day she was in a situation where it was valuable to somebody else and it saved their life. Obviously, donated dollars or donated blood is something that is the heartbeat of what we do. And you can volunteer in disaster response. The training that we have is very extensive, and you can learn on how to respond to those physical disasters that I described, like going to a home fire or being on the dispatch line and connecting other volunteers to those disaster action team locations. We also have a really cool program that I learned about last year that I got involved in for Public Information Officer, and so you can talk to media on behalf of Red Cross about what we're doing on a disaster scene and how we're helping. We're always looking for people to connect with that. There's 2 classes actually on November 19th and the 20th on how to respond locally with the media. So helping those in need, because one day it will be you. Could be you. And I definitely wanted to leave you guys with this video. It kind of touches close to my heart. This is a gentleman who was a recipient of our services. And when we had our volunteer recognition event, we highlighted him because of his profound story. He lives in Tucson, and he had a home fire and was completely devastated, was not expecting it, and just hear his story.
I got a call to come to the control room. When I got up there, they told me that my house was on fire. We got there about 1:30 in the afternoon. The fire started about 11:45, and by 2 o'clock it was nothing but 2 steel frames left. So it was absolutely a total loss. It was probably the most devastating thing, that I've been through. I could see everything that was important to me still standing. The house, the possessions that we're all so proud of weren't really all that important. The fire chief said to me, the Red Cross can come and help you with some of this stuff, and it was amazing to me that they did that. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I had my left kidney removed in June of last year to cancer, and I take 3 or 4 different kinds of blood pressure medications, as well as my insulin and things like that, and those were all lost in the fire. And that was the very first thing the Red Cross did for me, was they put all that medication back in my possession again. We lost a dog in the fire. That was pretty traumatic for everybody. Sadie was born deaf. She was 8 years old when the fire took her. She worked hand signals. She was a very awesome dog, but sorely missed member of our family. At the time, you're standing there in shock, just going, what happened to my world? Where did it go? And, you know, these people show up and they hand you a little tube, and in the tube there's a toothbrush, a bar of soap, a washcloth, some simple little things that you don't even realize are that you need, that you did need. And it just makes you feel like there's somebody that really cares. My oldest daughter got her in the ash and started digging around, and she pulled 7 trophy buckles out that my youngest daughter had 1. And they were still so hot that she couldn't hardly pick them up. She found them and got them out of there and took them home and cleaned them up. And just that simple little thing made the youngest daughter feel like there was still something left in her life. What a wonderful organization they are, and the people that give their time. Most of these people are volunteers. They don't get paid. You know, the woman that came to help us and the gentleman, they didn't get paid. For them to get to my house in an hour and 15 minutes, they literally dropped everything they had going on, their lives, and came to my disaster. What just an absolutely wonderful thing that is. And if all the people that work for the Red Cross and the ones I've met act exactly like that, those are the most selfless people I've ever met in my life. They just care about you and what's going on with you. And I would just say thank you. God bless the American Red Cross.
Katie, what time do I have right now?
12:30.
Okay, cool. So, let's see. So that's pretty much what I had for you guys, but I wanted to leave it open to questions and also go over some materials that I'll bring back to the stage. So what do you guys have for me? I see a hand over there. Anybody? Yes.
Your Safe and Well system, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so if any of you guys are familiar with Safe and Well? Safe and Well is a program that we have when there's a disaster that occurs and a shelter is open. We are able to connect individuals who are kind of displaced in the community and people who are housed at the shelter and connect them. So when you go into a shelter, the first thing that's going to happen is we register you in the shelter as well as log you into the Safe and Well system, and that way somebody else can log into a computer and see that indeed that's where you are. They know that you're safe, and there might be, I think there's even an option to leave a note, like, you know, Sally, I'll be home in 2 days, you know, I lost my phone in the fire, or what have you. And there's also another program for family links. It's a similar type of concept where if we partner with refugees when they are also displaced from wars that occur and they're here in the States, we can connect them with their family members with the resources that we have. Granted, if somebody is located in another country, we can get them into the system and search for them and then connect them that way. On a smaller scale, we do that for Holocaust members, well, not members, but survivors and family members who were affected by that disaster. Specifically, there is a lady by the name of Anna who is a volunteer with us, and just recently, I believe it was last Christmas, her father passed away, and it was the last known living relative that she knew of that was connecting her to other family members in Poland. She had no idea who was alive, and it's something that they didn't really talk about growing up. And so she came to the Red Cross in a wild hope that maybe she could connect with some other family members. Sure enough, we were able to locate 10 members of her family, and they were able to connect over Christmas, and she actually was able to fly out there, and she was 65 years old. So not having that connection all those years and then being able to find a family is pretty remarkable. So thank you for that wonderful question, Ethan. Yeah?
I was just wondering, if you're being a marketing person, I want to understand your social media strategy in terms of, do you primarily use your social media for different purposes? Like, is it really, what do you use it for? Like Twitter, and is it different between the two mediums as well?
It's a wonderful question, and actually I was hoping somebody was going to ask that because I pulled up our Facebook. So we kind of revamped our social media strategy last year when I came on. We were about 200 on Facebook, 200 likes, and about 300 on Twitter. I will proudly brag, we're like almost to 1,400 on Facebook. And literally that's because we have the whole market of Arizona to reach out to. And everybody can find value in disaster preparedness. And so that being said, with the 600 chapters that are around the United States, everybody kind of has a different style on how they communicate. Our communication, we kind of keep it lighthearted, but we put a lot of information on there about preparedness tips, as well as things that are going on in the community. So we want to educate people, and specifically in Arizona, on how we're helping. And let me refresh this because I did put a new post on there. So we were just part of a statewide disaster drill, and it was the largest drill. I see somebody nodding back there. It was the largest drill in Arizona history, so it was really neat, and we had a huge part of that. And so I linked that to educate people about other preparedness things and how we're helping. But the main strategy is simply to get that information at people's fingertips. So with Twitter, we revamp it a little bit more acutely with our messaging, but it's primarily the same thing. And with, as you know, Facebook and Twitter have a different type of feel with community and how they interact. So sometimes we get comments and likes, sometimes we don't. That's okay. It's there for people's information. With Twitter, we get a little bit more of a response because people are retweeting, they're direct messaging us. We have a lot of connections with journalists on there, especially if there's a bigger disaster like the wildfire. They were direct messaging us like, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you helping? Where's the information? And so we would send out the press releases that way, or just connect them with the most prominent messaging at that time. When we go into disaster mode, I get excited because it's like instant messaging all the time. Like you have to have the most current, accurate message to date because people will use that. So we definitely understand the importance of our messaging. But when we're not in disaster mode, that's kind of the information that we have. And I'll scroll down and show you. I'll probably tweet a lot more than I'll Facebook. I'll Facebook maybe, and depending on the scale of the disaster. When Japan occurred, I got a little gung-ho about it, but it was also simply because of the media attention on it. Everybody was talking about it, and Red Cross had a huge part in that. So even though it wasn't here in the States, I wanted to make sure everybody knew all the information that we knew. And it also got our word out a lot faster because people were retweeting and re-Facebooking. So I think I was tweeting once every 10 minutes for a few hours, and then kind of tailor it down. And then with Facebook, I was Facebooking once every 20 to 30 minutes. Some other information we have there. Oh, there's the brown bag. And then our holiday mail for heroes. So we have some campaigns on there, but for the most part, we want you to know the very current information that we have about disaster preparedness, and that's our central messaging. Zombie apocalypse, you never know if zombies could come and attack you. Seriously, they're on the rise. And how to build a disaster kit. We've got some really cool other social media strategists, especially in Portland, Oregon. If you guys ever have the chance to Google them, they're fantastic, and they have an award-winning blog. And they're a little bit more creative about their preparedness messaging. They actually, I think I stole this picture from them, but it was a stormtrooper dressed up like Red Cross disaster dude, and I thought that was cool. So, but yeah, I would say it's about disaster preparedness. And on that note, since I do have time, one second, I want to show you guys this. So this is, again, about disaster preparedness, and I would really encourage you guys to get one of these sheets before you leave, and it's a checklist. It's how to be disaster prepared. And the main messaging is having a disaster kit, an evacuation plan that you practice. Even if you don't have kids, it's good to know how to get out of your home, and then having more information on what to do once you're out of the home. The cell phone lines might be down, or you might have lost your cell phone, so you want to have other ways to get that information. So like having a crank radio, or what are those ham radios and stuff, like different forms of communication. And this is a disaster kit. So some things that we have in here, we have, this is kind of like, I would say, a very, very basic kit that you can just keep in your car. You can also build a 3-day disaster kit, and that would include, things like extra clothes. You want to make sure you have copies of your important documents, like the deed to your house, your birth certificate. You can even have like a jump drive with some important pictures on there if you don't have a backup, and some extra cash, things like that that you don't really think about. But with a basic kit, having Band-Aids, swabs, some water, basic food, things like that. But with a bigger kit, we've got, let's see here, obviously first aid, cell phone chargers, maps of the area, family emergency contacts, things that are really important. Then if you have a pet, you want to have some things in there for them. And so grab one of these on your way out. We do little drills to make sure that people are prepared, so keep your eyes out for that on Facebook.
Other questions, guys?
Yay.
Donations. I imagine there's donations of money, time, and materials. Money and time, I see, is fairly easy. How do we know, or what's the best way to donate materials? What kind of materials are needed, even when it's not a disaster?
We actually, that's a really great question. We don't accept donated materials. The materials that we provide are from the donated dollar. So when we're on a bigger disaster scene, like what you saw when we were handing out things to the community, those were donated items from other agencies that we are helping get out. But for us with the Red Cross and how we are able to help people in need on those scenes, like a home fire, we use that from the donated dollar. And then we're able to get it out because, like you said, if people were starting to donate a lot of different items, clothing, water, we might get a surplus of water when we really need toothbrushes and things like that. We, what was I going to say? With the, we pretty much just with the donated dollars is how we're able to best serve the community.
Okay.
Yes?
I can say, also say in a large event, there's a site called Aid Matrix that the state works with federal agencies and BOADs, which are organizations like Red Cross, the Salvation Army. So in a big emergency, sometimes the problem is people show up to volunteer on their own and they just donate goods and want to know where to drop it off, and that can be a problem at an event. So you usually get a message about there's a website, this is a place to go and kind of log in what you're able to give, whether it's an in-kind donation or a service, maybe not money, but that would be a way that all these organizations like the Red Cross could reference this website and be able to pull what they need in a big emergency like the wildfire, like you mentioned.
That's a really great plug. What does that stand for? It was Volunteer Organization
Active in disaster.
Active in disaster. So what they do is we actually went to a drill not too long ago. Well, it was a simulation on what that would look like. So if you have spontaneous volunteers, they're able to go into their system, if you will, and get funneled through with what they're able to provide, their time, their resources, and then get connected with other agencies. And that brought up a good point. So with the clothing donations, some people want to donate clothes because it's lying around their house. but we don't have the provisions to be able to sort through it, to wash it, things like that other agencies might be able to do. So we'll probably reference you to another agency, but obviously anything that you are able to provide during those times, we're not going to turn you away.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Ed?
It looked like you had a ton of admins for the Facebook page. So just curiosity, what looks like behind the scenes workflow for social media presence?
So the social media team that we have, some of those are volunteers, and it's to be able to train them in social media response, just in case we don't have a communicator. We do have a director, and then myself and my counterpart Stephen kind of manage the Facebooks and the Twitter feeds, but we also have a few AmeriCorps members that we train, that we want them to be able to know how to speak disaster talk. And I think there's a few other people there that just aren't engaged anymore. Thanks for noticing that little detail on a big screen. Did you notice any of the other posts? Maybe? Yeah, you should like some more of our Facebook posts, man. Just throwing that out there. But good question. If actually that's kind of segues into, if you are looking to volunteer, that's actually something that we're looking for, is people who can help us out with our social media communication. As we're out in the community, we want people to be able to know how to speak disaster, and taking pictures of a disaster scene like that, and then being able to get it out, having as much word as possible in the community. So.
All right, can we all thank Nicole, please?